Oh, look at that morning smile. We got the Colgate commercial happening right now. You're like,
Oh man.
what's up? All you sleepy people getting up.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm so impressed by you, Sati. Like you've been doing this like non-stop, like every single week. This has been amazing.
This is episode 28.
Oh my
Episode
God.
28, man.
Damn. And
Like you.
during quarantine. Awesome.
Listen, I like you. Once I get obsessed with an idea, I have to go and just keep doing it until, its purpose has left me. And this is a bigger purpose as I work on myself, answering questions about myself that I don't have answers for. So I reach out to awesome folks like you, and in our conversation, hopefully something will click, and then anybody else listening to it, hopefully they'll get some clicks. And that's all we can do for life, man. But what about you? What's going on? How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I mean, just working away. But I actually I think I saw you also at the conference, like a tech effect or something. You were like the keynote speaker, and I was like, every time you'd say something, I'm like, oh yeah. Do you remember that? And everyone
Yeah, I
pushed
do.
back, and they're like, what is going on?
I'm sure they thought I paid for putting fans in the crowd.
Yeah,
Like, she must be
exactly.
paid.
Yeah, no,
um,
I think a lot of it was sales oriented, and which I really loved, because I think that like a lot of us, right? Like when we are going into business, a lot of people try to like not do sales, and
yeah.
you're talking about. I think you said something smart money, something. I don't remember what it was, but it was. I was like, yes.
Yeah, and that's lessons I've been learning. That's one of the reasons we call this thing making money moves, because people think like you can just sell to make money. No, there's a whole bunch of stuff that leads to a sale, and then money comes. You don't just go sell for money. Um, but let's start off with like, yo, this crazy year. Give me one milestone that you've achieved that you're proud of this year, or one milestone you're working on that's gonna help you remember 2020.
So okay, so to help me remember 2020. So 2020, it's all about 25%. So I've kind of put it so that basically this year I want to achieve 25% more of my income. More. So basically, I put one section money, one section my fitness, because I am not in a good shape. I'm
Lies,
getting there.
lies. Let's
I'm
start by
getting
doing
there.
some workout right now. Live video push-ups. No, I love that. Money and fitness.
And then the other two is so one of them is influence, and kind of like I'm writing my book right now, and
Ooh.
kind of like influencing positively, right? So I've been doing a lot of work with nonprofit, as you mentioned earlier, for 5 years. But now I want to write something that's going to help people as well. So that's the third one, and then the last one is so we have money, influence,
Fit.
skill and skill. And the thing is, I find that as I develop more and more skills, I'm getting more and more opportunities, and I
Of
think that's
course.
something, because when you're in business, one of the things that I'm experiencing is that you're getting the gist of just working, but you forget, okay, you know what, I need to develop myself too, and what do I have holes in, especially in digital marketing. I find right now I'm doing a Facebook masterclass.
Right.
Um, and there's always new stuff coming up, right now there's AR VR advertising, and there's so much things going on, and you just have to keep on top of everything, otherwise you know you become basically you disappear, right, from the
Yeah. Listen, I love that setup, man. I love that setup. And every time I meet you and we have a discussion, I'm always left with the sense of like, you got such self-awareness about like what is happening, what you want to do. I mean, look, most people will be like, oh, one milestone this year is to spend more time with family. And then it's like, boom. But you're like, yo, I got a structure. It's called the 25% plan. I've got four things, and these are not simple things. There are in most people's life, if they can do one of these things in a year, it's a huge accomplishment. And for you, you've got such a great self-awareness. Take me back. Let's get the viewers into the mind frame that you operate out of. Tell us about your background. This self-awareness to make conscious decisions of like 5 years with a non-for-profit, or the book that is about influencing positivity. These all just don't happen accidentally. You're
yeah.
you're you're made a certain way from the experiences that got you this far. Take us back to little you. What's going on,
Okay.
little you?
So I'm from Nepal, so मुझे हिंदी आती है, so आपको पता
Ah, क्या
है.
बात है क्या?
Yeah, so I am from Nepal. My dad's a Sherpa. So once my father passed away, that's when, what happened was we had to wrap everything up. We moved with our grandparents, and then my mom was in the US. So she brought us to Canada. She's like, all right, you know what? The fastest way to get a citizenship and get a life going, go to Canada. So she moved to Canada. She got us here. And long story short, when I first came here, I had like a culture shock because, first year I was super goody two shoe because back home, you get whooped, right? So if you're not paying attention. So I didn't know how to act. So I've always kind of acted the way that, your teachers tell you, because I was also, my grandparents were taking us in, and we just kind of listen and just do, and when I first came here, I was pretty good and whatever. And grade 8, grade 9, I rebelled a little bit. And then I think I rebelled because I didn't have self-awareness, because I was always kind of like, oh, am I doing something wrong? Am I going to get whooped? But then after grade 9, grade 10, I kind of started getting acclimatized.
Right.
That's when I started checking myself. When I behave badly, I'm like, oh my God, I should not do that, right? And that's hurting someone, or, oh, I should not do this. So as I check myself, I think that kind of really helped me become more aware, even when I was working at Best Buy, even when I was doing the writing, the journalism, and then, working with youth. Like, it slowly kind of, as you get more and more aware of what you're doing, I think that really helps you. And yeah, so that's long story short.
That's amazing.
I think the first self-awareness that I really had was in high school, like in grade 11, grade 12. Right. And after that, it's kind of been, hey, if I go to a job, like even if I'm working at, because I was working at Beats, like a Dr. Do you remember the Beats by Dr. Dre? Now it's like, I think it's Apple product.
Yeah.
In the sales section at Best Buy. And so everybody did it. So you didn't need to sign in. You had to just sign in on a paper. People would literally walk in, sign in, and leave. But I told myself, like, okay, just any job you get, just do it like an awesome job, and just make sure that you're there, polish everything. So I would polish everything even if there was nothing to do, and I would just stand there and just keep polishing, keep talking to customers. And when I was doing this, it was making me feel like, oh my God, I'm doing honest. It just makes you feel good inside. And the more integrity you have, and the more confident you feel in the work you're doing, and you're not cheating anyone, like you slowly start building like respect for yourself. And when you start building respect for yourself, I think that's when all the you start getting more and more opportunity. Because after doing that, I got the highest sales in Ontario for Beats headphones, Beat activation. Yeah. And then it was through an agency, and then they offered me, basically hooked me up with another connection, and I got more gigs, and sort of that really helped me get out there.
Listen, we've only been talking for 10 minutes, but I think we're good. Like, there's so much value bomb. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I mean, this is crazy. This is what I love. Like, every time I see your post or your content, or looking forward to this conversation, my 30-second recap is like, self-awareness started with like this paying attention. So many of us don't pay attention, and maybe it's the immigrant mindset, maybe it's the immigrant hustle where you're climatizing to a new environment. But like you, I didn't speak for a year. Like, I came second half of grade 8, and I was like, man, I don't know what to say. What if like they hate my accent, or my English is not good enough, or they judge me for the wrong reasons? Because I come from Singapore, where I was already labeled dumb and stupid. And so I was like, well, if I keep my mouth shut, nobody will know I'm dumb and stupid. So it's cool. I don't have to talk. So for a year, from like grade 8, we came half of grade 8. So most of grade 8, I didn't speak. And most people just assumed I'm like this immigrant kid that doesn't know English. So I'm just sitting in a corner. Meanwhile, I'm fluent in English. English is first language in Singapore. I have no problems communicating. But that was probably one of the most early moments in my life of like shutting down your mouth and listening with your eyes and ears. And it's something that we don't do anymore, because we're so good at constantly doing stuff and throwing stuff out. And I love the idea of like, just listen and watch, and you'll start to ask questions. And the other thing you said, which I love, is this idea of version 2.0. I was 1.0 in Singapore, and I could have left that version, and that would have been my truth. Satish is this and that, and I believed it, and I just lived my life. Or I was like, no, as I'm listening to new things, what's my 2.0? And like, what does this 2.0 version look like? Well, there's no blueprint yet, except my past. And I love, like, any job that you do an awesome effing job. And build integrity. Like, I love that comment. Like, that's a flyer that's coming out on a t-shirt tomorrow. Like, I love what you said. Where does this stuff like get passed on? Because so much of the early version of us is things we learn from others, right? Sometimes good, sometimes not so good. Where are you learning these from? Who are you watching? Who's showing you the blueprint for integrity? Like, where are you watching this stuff?
The whole idea behind, any job I take, I do a really good job, is it comes from the fact that, how other people make me feel, right? So I had, in high school, I had this one teacher, Miss Watson, right? And no matter how I was behaving, no matter what I was doing, she would like always tell me that, why are you doing this? Like, why don't you just like, put yourself out there? I've read your stuff, like, just speak up, just like, and then she really like, it's just that one kind letter, right? So she wrote me this one like little card, and she wrote little like, you can do better, like, all this stuff. And that really kind of helped me realize, okay, you know what, even small things that you do sometimes, it really kind of helps get the, I think in the world, like, not enough people get appreciated, even a little bit. So when you do little kindness like that, like, you realize how much that really, lifts you, right? So even when you go to Best Buy or when you go to Starbucks, imagine you get a bad customer service, that just ruins your whole day. It's like, 100%. Why did you do this to me? I can't even stay for a cup of coffee.
Man, that's such a great way to start looking at life very early in life. We talk a lot about on this show how so many of us, until we consciously choose, we get somebody else's version of our life handed to us, right? And one of the things I'm really exploring this week in my book that I'm writing is this idea of self-traps, because people always say like, oh, take a risk and jump off the cliff, but how do you do that? Like, what does taking a risk look like, feel like, sound like? And when you do take that risk and positivity happens, there's also the opposite, which is happening, which is the potential of like falling into, risk and trap. And I look at traps in my life as like obsessiveness to work, or putting my relationship second, or not having a tight friends circle, or eating habits and lifestyle habits that are not that good. And these are traps I'm creating while I'm chasing success. And you can't avoid it. At some point, you're going to step into the trap. And I look at a quicksand analogy. Once you get into the trap, you're sinking. And as you're sinking, if you fight, you sink faster. If you don't fight and you're like, fuck it, life is treating me bad, you're still sinking. And the only way out is to get somebody else to help you. Right? And so investing in other people, being kind, treating people, with respect is really important. But, when you started to work with young founders, and you started to work with young people that have ideas, and you spent 5 years doing that, how can we summarize some traits, like things that hold people back, the people that like don't hustle hard enough, and the people that break through no matter what? What's the secret sauce, you think?
You know what? I don't know if it's a secret sauce, but I think it is like a trap, like you were talking about earlier. Because I think that a lot of people don't get the encouragement that they need. Because sometimes what it is that, I find that, when you really know that you need to do something is when you don't feel proud of yourself. Like, and that's just you, right?
Say that again. Let's dissect that.
Yeah, when you don't feel proud about yourself, when you sit down in a room alone, not in front of anybody, where you don't have to put up a front, right? And when you're sitting in a room on your own, you're looking at yourself, you're thinking to yourself, like not looking at Instagram, not looking anywhere. You just think, okay, am I proud of myself right now, right? So am I proud of the day, what I put out today? And a lot of times when I did those checks, in the beginning, when I wasn't doing much, like I was always working, always kind of trying to save a buck here and there, like, always doing work here. But I didn't feel proud of myself. And every time I didn't feel proud of myself, I said, okay, no. And when I took an action, that made me feel more confident, and that made me kind of elevate step by step by step. And I think that's how you get out of that mind trap. Even with the founder, the youths that I'm working with, it's 19 to 36, right? So I guess you could call it youth. I mean, I think it's 16 to 36. That's Canadian standard for youth for the program.
Yo, then I'm still a youth. I've been 29 forever. I've been 29 forever. Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, some of the, like, I think I met this one lady. She was a cartographer, and she's worked with, you know, Planet, I think Planet Earth. She's worked with a lot of different companies, really big companies, but she was still not very, like, you know, she wasn't like, she needed to, like, I felt like she'd brag, right, because she has, you know, degrees and degrees and degrees, and she's been working in the field. But I think it was just like, you know, for her, like, when I saw her, I realized, like, because I didn't know, I was like, oh, I don't have anything to offer to her, because of, like, she's way more experienced, she has way more things going on. But I knew in my heart that all I needed to do for her was just to encourage her and just to support her. That's all. And then that's all she needed. Now she's, you know, out there. She's and also recently I did a Kickstarter crowdfunding for her to come to Canada Cartographer conference.
Nice.
And we raised money, and she was able to go, so that was great as well. But what I'm trying to say is that with her, working with her, I think she was in 3 years ago I worked with her, and I remember her till this day, because I was like, wow, this person really has it together, right? She has her master's, she has her, she's worked for, you know, those Atlas Canada, you know, those maps. She's done those maps. She's really, she seems like on the book, like if we saw her profile on the book, I would be like, wow, this person's, like, you know, up there. But when you meet her in person, you realize, okay, you know what? She's not bragging. She's not out there. She's not really, you know, so as a voice, I guess, as voiceful as we are. And I realized, okay, all she needed, little support, and then down the road, you know, you just see her blossom like, you know, crazy. Because sometimes, you know, yeah, it's just the trap. I think it's the self trap, right? So,
no, I love that, man. And you know, when you talk about version 2.0 of you know, Canadian version versus the girl from Nepal, the current swagger you got, the confidence in speaking, you know, the extrovertedness. Is that new? Was it always there and it just blossomed in a new country versus, you know, being shut down? Like, I'm the same dude, but I was shut down in Singapore by design, right? You know, Satish is a social butterfly, smack. You know, I talk a lot in class, smack. I have too many friends, smack. And then I was like, oh shit, I don't want to get smacked, so I'm just going to keep shutting down the best parts of me. And then people are like, oh, I thought you were an introvert, man. You're an amazing extrovert. I'm like, I don't know if I was an introvert or extrovert, but right now I feel good, like who I am. Your confidence and your personality, was it always there? Did you work on it by design? Like, you know, talk to me about you.
Yeah, I mean, I would say I was a pretty angry kid when I was growing up.
I can't picture it. I can't picture it. I was.
You know, I saw my dad pass away, right? So that was one, and the other one was, I think it was just like, you know, just, I feel like, okay, no, I didn't get dealt the right cards, right? So I was always blaming people, blaming the world. And then, you know, when it turned off was one day I was like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to try something different, because it was just always the same problems every time. So then I was like, you know what? How about this? I'm going to just like pretend that I'm not me, right? So I was like, okay, so I created an alter ego, you know, so basically yeah, there you go. My alter ego was like, you know what? Whenever I needed her, she was there, right? So, for example, in a room, when I felt like I didn't need to speak up, you know, I did speak up, because I was like, okay, I'm going to tap into my alter ego. That way the alter ego can tap in and, you know, talk and, you know, say the things that needs to be said. Like especially when I was doing, you know, sales, I didn't feel confident, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to tap in, because every time I didn't feel comfortable, I just tapped into the person that I really want to be, which was my alter ego. And I just be like, all right, tap in, Naima. And then Naima would come in, right? So,
wow.
Yeah, that was it.
What a bomb. I wasn't even going to go down that path, but you opened that path up. Man, that's a great way, you know, I feel you, because that was exactly my formula. I was like, look, I don't, you know, Satish got off the plane confused, because Satish had a certain vision of myself from Singapore, and then I'm in Canada and they're telling me a different version, and I'm like, I don't understand which version is true, so I'm gonna make my own version. This guy called Sats B, and this dude had swagger, had no fear, can walk into any room and rock the mic, wasn't afraid or shy talking to girls. Like, I just had this elevated persona that I imagined myself to be, and I still tell people today, it's only the last couple of years that Satish has been to Daisy Fest. For the first 11 years, it's Sats B. Satish has never attended because he's too chicken shit to get on stage in front of 100,000 people.
Yeah.
And same way, a Sats B has never walked into a boardroom.
Yeah.
That's Satish, the bow tie, suit and tie, swagger dude, close a deal, move on, right? And it's only in the last few years where I've realized how to combine the two into my version where I'm not competing.
Yeah.
But you're so right. I'm like, boom, boom, boom.
Listen, Satish, you gotta remember, you're like 10 years ahead of me.
29, hit 29. So you must be 19. What the hell? You're so young, so young.
I didn't realize that you're 29. You have babies.
No, it's amazing, man. And I love, you know, what you said about, you know, being dealt the cards that we're dealt with. And some of us complain about it. Some of us use it to fuel us.
Yeah.
And some of the folks that you've seen that take the cards and turn it into positivity, into motivation, what does that look like? How does somebody start to let go of the cards they got?
You know, one thing I had to learn was that you can't force it. It has to come from them. Like, they have to be like angry at themselves, where they're like, you know what, my way is not working. I gotta fix this, right? So, because another thing is that one of the things I realized when I was in that mindset was that it's very addictive to be complaining. You know, when you're negative, it's because it's also being pessimistic. That's more cool, right? So being not one with the world, like, oh, you know, me against the world. That's like the mentality that's you know, that's more that can get addictive, because you get more pity, you get more you know, attention, you get more,
right?
Because what people don't realize is that, you know, we as adults, you know, as we grow up, the whole idea is to do the reconciliation that you're doing, right? So with your Satvi versus Satish, putting that together, you know, when you're becoming an adult, you have to be aware of all the bad and all the good that, you know, you are doing, and because you're the witness, right? So
100%.
There's no one else that can see. So a lot of times people see from the outside a founder and they think, oh, they have their shit together. Like, they think I have my shit together, and I do have my shit together right now, because I make sure that I have my shit together. It's because you have to be able to you know, you basically have to be able to be like, okay, this is something that I'm doing that's not so great. I need to fix that. This is something that I've done great. So, okay, you know what? I'm going to take myself out for a nice lunch, right? So I took myself out for lunch quite often when I do a good job, you know. And then you have the other side and I take my friends out when I say, okay, if I do a really good job, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have a permission to go out with my friend and, like, you know, treat her and treat him, whatever. And then, you know, and that makes you feel good because you're treating someone, but at the same time, you're rewarding yourself. So, you know, it's all good. But as adults, I think we need to realize the good and the bad that we're doing, and being able to correct or reward ourselves for the good that we're doing. And that's it, right? That's really it.
Yeah, no, I love how you worded that. And I think one of the things that stood out for me is how you articulated negative is addictive. And it's an addiction as equal as it is to alcohol or drugs or any others, because a negative talk is you versus you. Right? And that's one of the biggest traps that people fall into. And it's not just negative as in poor me, but some people, it gets so high on their own ego that that's a different form of negativity, but they don't see the pitfalls because in their head, they're so far ahead that they're not watching what's happening so close to them.
Yeah.
I love how you just worded that. Negative is addictive, which is key to understanding, you know, yourself and sort of where you are in your mindset. And the reward system is amazing, man. I love that you go for lunches with yourself. Before COVID, I used to reward myself once a month by going to the movies by myself.
Oh, that's nice.
I actually hate going to movies with other people, including my family. I'm like, listen, if you guys want to go without me, that's cool, but I like to go without you. Because I like the whole experience to be for me. I like the smell of the popcorn. I don't want little fingers touching it. I don't want to worry about washroom breaks. I want to sit in a corner and chill. And that was my reward since like 20 years ago, when I just, like, what do I do for myself that's empowering? Because so many of my friends, their success was like evenings and weekends.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, if I'm working my butt off every single day, 24 hours a day, how do I reward myself in a different way to empower my struggle? I was like, going to the movies is the craziest shit, because you can't do it. You're 9 to 5. Your boss won't let you go. I could, so I'm gonna go to the movies midday.
Yeah.
That's how I rewarded myself with the hustle. And I love that you're doing the same thing with food. Let's talk about your career. you know, fascinated how from journalism to now you're doing the art of storytelling through digital, but you started right off with like, I do sales, which
Yeah.
is the scariest word in most people's life. You know, they'll do anything but sell.
Yeah, well, you know, advertising, the way I look at advertising is sales, right? So, and I think the first, you know, this is when my mind shifted, because when I was doing science journalism and tech journalism, it was all about creating my craft, writing stuff. But I realized no one paid attention to it. And, you know, it was like a lot of people, like I was getting like 8 people or 6 people that were reading my article. And then as I used social media and I realized, okay, I can drive a lot of traffic doing ads and stuff. It was great. And then
We're back.
okay.
Okay, let's rewind so my editing team can edit it. Boom, tell me about sales.
Okay, so then yeah, I think the first time that you know, so another thing is like with advertising, I just see advertising as sales, because it's just like really you're trying to connect people with people who need stuff, a specific stuff to solve their problem with the solution, right? So that's how I saw it. And you know, when you're doing your advertising campaigns, like all you really have to do is just reach the people that need your stuff and then filter them out through the funnel, right? So maybe multiple landing pages, you have a form to, because you don't need a lot of leads, you just need qualified leads. Because a lot of times, you know, you have businesses that ask for lots of leads. They're like, how come this company is promising me like hundreds of leads? I tell them, hey, are you going to be able to close them, right? So what if I get you 10, but 10 closed leads, right? So that's way more valuable to them than the other.
That's money in the bank. That's money in the bank.
Yeah, exactly. And so for sales, here's the thing. Even when I got my first ad job, like I said, hey, how about I work for a commission, right? So, and I said, how about I work based on projects, right? So if I get X amount of projects, like, you know, how about you pay me only for those projects? And that kind of helped me sell myself. But also, and then afterwards, they did hire me on a regular basis because it was more expensive to do that way. And right now, like, you know, just recently, I think not recently, but I think my first year in business, one time I was on a phone call and I was just like, the lady just said, hey, okay, just cash the $10,000. And I was like, what? Because I've never made $10,000 in one call. And I think that time when I first made that, and you know, I had a friend sitting across from me, so it was Kyle, actually, you know, Kyle from
Yeah.
on the phone. She gave me the money, like right on the phone. I told her what I was going to do for her. And then I showed her my case studies and she said, okay, you know what, just take the 10K. And I was like, I was flabbergasted because no one has ever said that, right, in my life.
Awesome.
Right?
Yeah, that's awesome.
So when that happened, I literally said, all right, I just played it cool. All right, okay, I processed it. It went through and I said, all right, thank you. I'll get that done for you. And then I closed it. And I just like freaking went wild because I was like, what? You know, when you provide value, like I was saying earlier, when you meet people that really need your product, you don't have to sell. Literally, they will be like, I want to buy, right? So when that happened for the first time, I think that's when my mind just changed. I realized, oh, you don't need to sell, right? It was, right. I mean, you're selling, but when you meet the right people, when you communicate well enough that you're delivering, you're telling them exactly, you know what, this is how this product is going to help you, and they know that it will help them, and you help them, because, you know, sales doesn't end just when you say, okay, here's a product, you buy it, they give you the money. That's not where it ends, right? So the product has to actually solve their problem. That's when I consider the job well done. And
that's incredible.
Yeah, so that's the sales portion from my end. But that was the first time that I realized, I'm like, wow, selling is very easy when you know exactly when you deliver the right product to the right person, right? Because they know it's gonna help them. So why are they not gonna, you know, buy the product?
Yeah, and what I love about your summary of that process is most of us don't actually know what we're selling. We think we know what we're selling, but we don't actually know what we're selling. And this is what I learned starting my incubator, working with startups. You know, there's no shortage of ideas. But when you think about, look, I don't care about your idea. Tell me about the value you provide and what's the problem you're trying to solve and why does your problem solve it the best? It's the same question reframed, but the answer has more importance. And they can't answer it. And then we talk about the 5 P's of like, okay, this is what you want to do, but why do you want to do it? And then why do you want to do it? And why do you want to do it? And then by the third why, most folks that are not in it for the right reason, flabbergasted, don't know how to answer, they get pissed off at me. They're like, what do you mean? You don't get it, bro. I told you what I'm doing it for. I'm like, well, 2 more whys, because I'm not convinced. Because we get to the last 5, everything lines up. Let's go to market. Let's go to sell. Because selling is really about connecting, right? And it's scary because you have to become vulnerable. You got to call somebody. You got to create a relationship. You got to explain who you are. Nobody's waiting for your phone call. Nobody gets up this morning and says, I hope Satish or Naima calls me today. I'm free between 9 and 12. I really need a solution. I hope they call me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you decide to go from creating content to connecting and driving sales for other folks and really understanding what value you can bring to them. You're getting into one of the toughest male-dominated industries, right? And this is not a hustle you started after working as a salesperson for years and years and years and years. So many young founders, especially young female founders that I meet and coach, they use that as a roadblock.
Yeah.
Right? And they don't have a lot of blueprints on how to fight through because we're still surrounded by a lot of negativity that becomes the addiction. Oh, there's no way, we can't do it. Share with us some of the challenges you face, and more importantly, how you're able to find a way around it, through it, kick it out of the way, punch it in the face.
I've talked to many people about this. I think that being a female is actually an advantage when it comes to sales. Especially when you're doing sales, it's really a big advantage because people actually want to listen to you, because people actually automatically trust you. A lot of times they already trust you when you're talking to them, and I don't know why that is. Maybe because they've dealt with too many male salespeople. I don't know. But the other thing is that when I'm running my ads, right? So the way I set up my ads is that I just break it into two parts. One is the lead generation part, and the second component is a qualification automation, right? So basically, sales system to automate that process. So by the time the lead is, you generate the leads from the ads or the SEO or the social, and you put them through the qualification process of the landing page, the form, and the discovery. Once that's done, whoever is coming at the end of that is already familiar with you. So when you hop on a call with them, they already know that they want to purchase, right? So it's a matter of just talking to someone that is someone who is equivalent to someone coming in to shop for specific product that they want, and they know how much it is and they're ready to buy. So
right.
Yeah, that's how I think today has been great. But in terms of challenges for me, I think it's really minimal in that sense. But in terms of being a female, I think the only challenge that I experienced was just more, I think, sometimes you do run into some really weird guys and really weird people. I mean, I've had experience where it was a little bit really odd and awkward, as you can imagine.
Of course, yeah.
Other than that, I think overall, even my mom is a salesperson, right? So we did her business. I put it on Shopify.
Awesome.
Yeah, and we it's Kailash Handicrafts, and arts.com, and then she has a shop downtown. So she always, before she had the shop, we would go do tables, Cabbage Town Festival.
Sure.
We would do tables, and so that kind of helped me. I didn't realize I was doing sales, but I was doing sales.
Right.
That was it. Yeah.
Man, I'm assuming she's the most important and stressful customer to deliver results. Naima, there's no leads. What's going on? The store's been up for 30 minutes.
That's funny because she called actually last weekend, and she was like, "Hey, how come all my product is not online?" And I was like, "Mom, I'm just slowly transitioning it to Shopify, because before we had it on WordPress."
That's amazing. I love that, man. I love that. Listen, as we sort of move through your career, and looking at sort of the work you're doing with community and also your business, the strong sense of community. I'm always fascinated because I come from a life where people are like, look, you can't help people unless you're successful. You can't do things until you get to a certain level. You got to be rich to give money. You got to all these rules.
Yeah.
And then you're like, hey, look, helping people and building my own business is equally important.
Yeah.
Right. Talk to me about that ideology, because so many of us resist the urge to help others because we feel like we need to get to a certain place.
Mm-hmm.
But what we don't realize is there's no guarantee we're going to get to anywhere.
Yeah.
All that matters is what we have today, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So how are you balancing the two between, chasing your dreams and then also finding time to help others fulfill theirs?
Yeah, so the nonprofit portion, the way I was able to work 5 years, because since I'm pretty young, is that I would spend Saturdays with them, right? So Saturday was the program that I would run, and I would just help on Saturdays. So I've been doing that for 5 years. And then, like I said earlier, sometimes it's just being kind, right? So even when I'm working at Best Buy before or at the Beats shop or with my mom, like my mom, one of the things that she taught me was like, hey, when people come by, just acknowledge them, right? People don't get acknowledged enough, right? So that was the main thing. Just even if you want to help someone, just be nice. I think, because you know what, it's not that hard to tell. When someone shares ideas, when someone wants to talk, right? One of the things I'm realizing is a lot of times when I have when I'm dealing with my customers, even customers who are doing like multi-million dollars in revenue on a regular basis, they have insecurities. Doesn't matter how much money they have, right? So they have insecurities. They have they want to talk, they want to be acknowledged. They are people. So I think it's just a matter of just even no matter where you're in the stage, like being positive, and just not, because sometimes what happens is that if you don't have that awareness to check yourself, sometimes it's not even the other person being mean to you, it's just them being, they can't be nice to themselves and they can't be nice to other people, right?
Right.
So to a certain level, I do think that initially you do need to work on yourself, but the most you can do in any stage is that just be nice to other people, like especially if you hear someone sharing something, right, just acknowledge them, just be nice. That's I think that's one thing that we can all do.
That is such a bomb of a statement. Like, now I got to make another t-shirt. I was already going to make a t-shirt about negative is addictive. Now I got to make a be kind t-shirt. Man, this is
Okay,
becoming.
Send me a shirt, please.
Let's talk a little bit about habits. I'm always fascinated. One of the reasons I started this podcast or video cast or whatever it is as I continue to life hack myself into my future. As I stated in a call a couple of days ago, is I want to become the mayor in the next 5 years. That's my goal.
Nice.
To ultimately get to a position of like help. But to do that, I'm like, I need new habits, new ideas, new formats.
I did not know that.
That's it.
Was the next step.
That's my next move, man. And I'm manifesting it, see what happens. But what are some of the habits or routines that you can't live without? Like, in a single day, break down your day, things you must do, because that's what's gonna make you into like this operationally happy, amazing person.
Yeah, I think, I didn't realize how important sleep was. So in the first
What?
year,
It is?
yeah.
What is that word? Sleep.
Exactly. No, it's actually very, very true. First year, I think I think I was not going to sleep properly. I was pretty stressed out. I would be online all the time. But right now, the habits that I can't live without, since I'm working on a book, in the morning, I dedicate 5:30 to 6:30. That's 1 hour. So I dedicate 3 hours, so 3 days to one chapter. So I'm trying to basically, polish up each chapter as best as I can and write it really well. So I write about 3 pages, that in that section, and I do my research and I make sure it's really good, it's credible source, everything. So I do about 3 pages per day for that one chapter. So right now, that's my habit right now. But generally speaking, I wake up, I eat my oatmeal. I hate oatmeal, by the way, but I eat oatmeal.
No wonder you go out for lunch all the time.
Yeah, and lunch I try to go off, but it's only when I treat myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's
I eat
amazing.
my oatmeal with blueberries, because my mom, I've seen my mom. She has diabetes, so I don't want to get that. So I'll make sure that I'm not getting that. So in the morning, I'll eat my breakfast. I love sugar, but I try not to eat too much sugar, so I eat that. And then after that, I just write out I do a brain dump. So everything that comes to mind, that's like, I have to get this done, get that done, I write it out, so it's out of my mind. And then I use the Eisenhower, because I have this, I'll show it to you.
Eisenhower, okay.
What is it? Eisenhower, I think I don't remember if pronunciation is correct, but basically it's this thing. And then you can...
Ooh, tell me more about this. I love props.
So after you brain dump, you kind of write, okay, important but not urgent. That.
Yes.
Yeah. So do that, and then that way I can delegate
And
most
that's
of
a
the work
daily
out.
process or a weekly process?
This one is daily. I have to do it daily because I
Wow.
have a
Okay.
lot of projects on the go and my mind goes crazy sometimes. But
How do you find the discipline to really understand, urgent, important, but this is like urgent, not so important? As it does, because I try to do those things and I can't because at some point I can't decide because they're
yeah,
so similar. So then I just create a list and I'm like, look, if these five things are in my brain, they're important to me,
yeah,
but I'm not also gonna hate myself for not doing it. But I'm
mhm,
just gonna attack one at a time.
yeah,
And then I'm good, right?
yeah.
But once I started to do what you're talking about, I got anxiety in trying to decide where the hell to put this thing into.
Yeah, so this is something that it will like when I have, because right now I have a lot of, mine is easier because it's all client work, right? So I know which ones are deadline, where the deadline is. But the other thing is that this is how because whatever task I'm listing out for me and whoever's going to come into work today, right? So I have
Sure.
two people working with me. So today I have like my social media manager coming in. So when I make that list, and then I have my virtual team. So whenever I make that list, I have to, I'm doing it not just for myself, for the whole team. So
Amazing.
technically, the reason I do it every day is because it's a way that I can actually delegate work to other people too. Because half of the time, like some of my like a couple of my people, like they'll just be like, "Oh, what are we doing?" Right?
Yeah.
And then I have to be like, "Okay, you know what?" So that was one thing that I had to work on in my second year. So right now, everyone knows what they're doing because we're doing this in the morning, right? So it also helps me get everything out of my mind, and it really helps me out. It is true that you should do it, if you're generally everybody else, you'll do it by maybe weekly, but it's because for me it's different because I'm working with lots of different advertising campaign,
Right.
a lot of customers that are looking for very different things. Sometimes they're looking for maybe the lead generation, but they don't care about the sales system, right? Some people are looking for the sales system, so the sales funnels, but some people don't care about the lead gen, right? It's because they're already having enough volume, they just need to qualify. So that's why I have to list it out and figure out, okay, you know
Nah,
what?
that's incredible.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Listen, I don't. I miss that world from running my own agency, but I also don't. I'm like, man,
it's a
that
lot of
was
work.
those
People
are those.
people don't realize, everyone is a social media manager. Everyone's digital marketer, but people who are really doing it know that it's a real like dedication, and you have to, like I said, you have to hone into your skill, and every single day you're working basically your butt off.
Yeah, no, I love that. And getting back into the traps for a second, one of the things I realized is I didn't have the healthy support network. Because when
Mm-hmm.
we came here, it was mom, dad, brother, sister. We don't
Mm-hmm.
have any uncles, aunts. There's no blueprint. I wasn't good at making friends, and it took a lot of life hacking to start building trusted networks.
Mm-hmm.
Where when I'm in my quicksand and I'm sinking, whether
Mm-hmm.
fast or slow,
Mm-hmm.
I have a plan and a group or some music or something to help me get out of that quicksand, right? You similarly following the path of a new immigrant coming here, making new friends. When things are not as well,
Mm-hmm.
what's your support system like? Who do you lean into? What's your rope stick to get out of the trap?
Yeah, I think that whenever one thing I'm really lucky with is my partner, right? So I have a really, really supportive partner. I know that's, you really need to find someone that you can confide in, right? So I have really good core group of friends who are very successful and very busy, like myself. So I don't try to bother them with too much of my stuff. So it's nice to have a partner right now who's really been able to, I can confide in, and like, he'll tell me exactly, okay, you know what, maybe right now this is seeming bigger than it is, and kind of will bring me back down, right?
Right.
You just will never want to be in a place where you confide, you want to make sure that you're confiding in the right people, but
Amazing.
yeah, and if you don't have someone to confide in, you want to write it out. So in my, when I was in my first year, and I think when I was making the transition, when I felt like I wasn't really, really position of power, right? Because right now I have a position of power, but before I did not. I felt that way, but I did. It's just that you have to own that. And at the time, I would write it out, but now it's all about just bouncing it off someone I can confide in, like my boyfriend, right? So I'm
Amazing.
sure you have your partner as well, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. My wife gets the first brute force of all my ideas.
Yeah.
I remember telling her 27 days ago, hey, every morning at 9 a.m. I'm gonna like talk to people, work on my book. Because what you have as a discipline to get up at 5:30 a.m. and write, I don't.
Yeah.
I have
I
learning
don't get up at
disabilities.
5:30 though. I get up earlier.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's even worse. At least 5:30, I was like, but you wake up, like, I didn't go to bed till 4 a.m. last night.
Yeah.
But you were probably getting up at that time when I went to bed, and then we're having a conversation, So I needed to life hack and figure out like how to build a support system. Who can I be vulnerable with? Who can, I be like, emotional and cry in front of and still be
Mhm.
okay? Because we all need that outlet.
Yeah.
As humans, we need to cry, we need to laugh, we need to
Mhm.
hug, we have to do it others. We can't do it ourselves. You know what I mean? So
Exactly.
having that support network is super important, and that's how I've been able to get out of my traps, which are gonna happen. You can't avoid them. You're
Mhm.
building them today with everything you decide to do, which is a
Mhm.
reaction to everything that we're starting. You want to start a great business? Great. Oh, I'm gonna go hustle. I'm gonna do this. But you're building traps around emotional deficiency,
Mhm.
family, friends,
Mhm.
health, right?
Mhm.
So for me, that's a really interesting awareness that I've been focusing on.
Yeah.
Getting back to you, we talked about fitness a little bit. I have a sugar issue, so I feel the pain. I love the skills that you're working on. Final question is, walk me through the role of money in your life.
Mhm.
The show is called Making Money Moves. Everybody I speak to has a different relationship with money.
Mhm.
Some people it's survival. Some
Mhm.
people it's the definition of success. For some
Mhm.
people it's not relevant.
Yeah.
Where were you with your relationship and money? Where
Mhm.
are you now?
Mhm. Yeah, so when I was working like the minimum job, like I was telling you earlier, right? So even when I was in university, I was working minimum jobs. Like I would work 3, 4 jobs just to like be like, okay, you know what, save, because I was looking at spring rolls. This is literal spring roll. I was working at Paramount. It was a venue, so it's not the Paramount Mediterranean food. And I was working doing sales with my mom and doing all that stuff. So I think the biggest money trap, and well, not money trap, but before this is a transition,
Mindset.
right?
Yes.
Mindset was that, oh, I always felt like I could do it, right? So I felt like I could save money, and then I would calculate like how many hours I would have to work, and sometimes I'm like, wait a minute, so I would have to work 240 hours. That doesn't make sense. And I'm going to school, so I was like, okay, you know what? At this rate, I'm never gonna get rich, right? So that was my main thing, and then I think at that time I decided to work at sales because they said you could get commission. I was like, oh, okay, so if I sell 10, I could do at least I get $10 on per headphones, and okay, so that doubles my potential, because at the time the minimum wage is about $10, right? So it's a little, what it is. You can never jump from being a minimum wage earner to like
The
to
ten
set
thousand
like a
dollars.
$10,000 or $20,000 now or 25, right? It has to be in increments, and my increment was, oh, I could do this to increase, maybe $10 more that hour. I can get commission for that. Okay, good. And I also did printer sales, right? So that was like another thing in university that I did. So every time you do little increments, it helps you increase. The mind shock that I had was the fact that that $10,000 call when I had in my first year of business, where I was sitting across from Kyle, and when I did the call and I showed them the case studies, and they said, yeah, okay, sounds good. When they closed that deal, like on the phone, they gave me the card, I processed it on the phone. I was like, I looked at Kyle and I was like, what the hell just happened? And that was kind of like the made me realize that sometimes it's not, it's us blocking ourselves, right?
Wow.
Yeah, and that I would say that's definitely the only that's it. And the other thing is, right now I experience this all the time where so for example, I had a clinic that put in $7,000 and they got out $95,000. So seeing that transaction that going on with the advertising side, in the business, that also helps a lot with the mindset being like, oh, it's more a mind. It is really a mindset thing. It's not a not not a finite thing, not a problem. It's in what most people need to do it in increments, and it will help you transition. But for me, I would say, because I'm so forceful, I'm out there so much, I got the shock the first year with the deal on the phone, and then now with advertising, it helps a lot with keeping, I guess, making me realize that it's just a mindset.
That's amazing, man.
Yeah.
And I think the greatest gift that I got from my first year of business is we made so much and then we lost all of it. And the fear of money got beat out of me.
Yeah.
And the fear of money, of losing what you make, keeps most of us in a survival mindset. A good friend, Jim, yesterday or 2 days ago said, you can't shrink into greatness.
Yeah.
And it was like a slap. I was like, say that again. He's like, whatever you do in life, you can't play small. You can't shrink into greatness. So you can't hoard the money to make money. You can't play small and be influential. You can't not work on skills if you want to get better at the things you want to do in life. And I think our entire conversation for me summarizes into that statement of you can't shrink your way into greatness. And looking at your hustle from selling printers to Best Buy to Beats by Dre to Paramount to now running your own boss company. I love your journey. Where can people find you? How can they get in touch with you?
I mean, you know what? I'm here. They can see my IG handle. Feel free to follow that. My business.
Say it for me, so on the podcast they'll know how to get to you too.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so I didn't realize you're doing this twice. Okay, so that's awesome. That's what I'm talking about, Satish. You're doing
I'm a beast.
multitasking right now. Okay, so my name is Naima. I'm a founder of Social Sherpa. So we do, sales systems, advertising on social and Google. So you can find me at thesocialsherpa.ca. So that's my website if you need to find me. Otherwise, you can just IG. I know I have my IG here as well. If you just want to have a conversation or if you just need help, we have Sunday digital marketing clinics where we give free services and free help to businesses that need it. Right?
Amazing.
So
I love that.
Yeah. So if you're really affected by COVID or really, really need help, we're happy to help you.
Incredible.
So yeah, feel free to drop in on Sunday. That's what we have right now.
I love it, man. I love our conversation. Thank you so much for making some time for me. I feel like you're already half day in from 4:30 and this is just my first hour. So I'm excited. I'm pumped. You got me energized. So I'm going to go. I've got a bunch of sales calls today for some of our startups that we're working on. So I get that dose of like, go Sats B, go get it. I'm a big fan and I love following your content and posts. And so thank you for making some time for me.
Thank you. And you know what? I don't think people appreciate you enough.
Thank you for saying that.
It takes a lot to do this consistently. And like I've been messaging you before, right? I'm like, wow, amazing. Like just keep it up because you know what? You're putting like your piece of you out there. And, I really hope that, this people really appreciate what you're doing here.
I appreciate it. And listen, in 4 years, I'm going to call you because we have a run for mayor campaign to figure out. It's Bala for balance.
Oh,
it's going to happen. It's going to happen. Yeah. I'm hoping to get some votes, or at least put my foot into it. But I'm daydreaming and having some fun, but I appreciate your time.
Get some photo shoot, start getting those mayor shots.
Exactly. Let's see, but I appreciate your time. Thank you always.
Thanks
see you soon. Okay. Bye.